Hey guys, Arcade Geek here. So, got a bit of a weekend project. This is my garage, so it's a bit of a zoo right now, but it kind of is what it is. And I was always intending on making my home arcade in the house. We've got a fairly large house, 4,300-ish square feet, but the way it's sort of laid out right now, the game room, the only real good section for a game room is on the second floor, which is sort of an open railing looking over to the bottom level where everybody sort of hangs out, the kitchen, the main TV. So, putting an arcade up there, just really noise factor. If you want to get up and play games, you're basically disturbing the rest of the house. And so it did end up being very private. But I also, have a decently sized garage here. Call it a 3-car garage, but as you can see, my crap is just everywhere. So project for the weekend is going to be to find a way to turn this space into the garage-cade. And that's just going to be sort of temporary. We're in this house right now till my son, who's in 7th grade, graduates high school. So we want him to be able to go to all the same schools, and so he won't, move around. I moved around a lot of schools when I was a kid, and I just don't want to do the same thing to him. So although we want a larger house, more land, et cetera, I think we're going to hang out in this place for the next 6 years or so. And then as soon as he's ready to graduate, then we'll go ahead and move to a bigger space. And at that point, I think I'll go for the separate building, home theater / arcade / man cave, whatever you want to call it. So for the time being, I can, at least have these games out to where I can play them, with the exception, I think, of 2 games here right now. I think there's only 2. Everything works. So, I've got these things jammed in the garage, and they're all restoration projects. I want to work on them and, just make them a little bit nicer. And I just sort of felt like, if I can line these up in here to the point where I can get at each of them, I can pull one game out, restore it, and during that time I can, be playing the other games and have people over and whatnot. So today I went out and bought some garage door insulation kits from Home Depot, and I'm going to go ahead and put those up, as well as put a new threshold down on the bottom of the garage and just try to seal this space up a little bit. I'm in Texas, so in the summer it can be 100 for a length of time, and in the winter, like today, it's probably 20s. So I kind of wanted to just make this space a little more livable. So I'm going to do a good job cleaning it out today. I'm also going to be relocating things. There's a bunch of stuff in these boxes that quite honestly should not be out in these elements, and has been for the sort of 9 years we've lived here. So I'm going to take things like Christmas ornaments. I've got a couple 100,000 old baseball cards from when I used to collect, and just some of that type of stuff that's out here. I'm going to move it into the house, into some of the bedroom storage closets, and get it out of here. And then take those shelves and move those over to this wall here. We've got a bunch of brick from when the house was built and those types of things. So I'll be rearranging all of this stuff. And in the end, I'm hoping that I can just basically take this back wall there and maybe a portion of the wall on the right here and just line the games up to the point where I can play. So that's the goal for the weekend. Show you guys a little more of the space on the inside of the house once I get everything sort of set up. But I'm hopeful that I can at least get these things lined up. There are some games in here that I'm going to restore and actually sell. Tron is one. I've got a couple parts that are coming in from this old game. He's finally rerunning some of those pieces. So as soon as they come in the next couple weeks, I'll go ahead and do the restore on that and put that one out for sale. I think there's a wide body Mario Brothers, which I like the game, but it wasn't my favorite. And when you're trying to be somewhat limited in space, I just think that's one I'll probably fix because it's not currently working. Do a little, sort of minor restore on and then sell. So that should give me room, as I figure it, for about maybe 14 or 15 games out here once I get it all arranged without sort of intruding on the space of the other section of the garage. So that's the goal. Anyway, I guess we'll see what it looks like when I come back. All right, guys, we are done. Basically 2 days later. It's actually Monday morning, but I worked all day Saturday and Sunday on this, maybe 8-10 hours a day. It was fairly ridiculous. But as you recall from the first half, everything that's over here was over there, and then all the games were just sort of jammed in end to end right here in the center. So, I could pull a game out and work on them, but I couldn't actually get to any of the other games to play them or do anything in the meantime. So thought I'd spend a couple days getting organized, threw out a ton of stuff, moved some things into the house that needed to be in the house, sort of things you don't want out to the Texas elements, 100 degrees in the summer forever, and today is probably 20 outside, so hot and cold extremes. But anyway, so I'm not 100% done. A few little things here. I'm going to hang my bike and get some of these other items out of the way. But for the most part, it's workable, so I can get at the games I need to get at, and then play the ones that I want to play. So anyway, I kind of just thought I'd take a few minutes and just go over all of the projects for this year, so you can kind of get a feel for what hopefully this channel content-wise will have coming up here in the next 6-9 months, depending on how long it takes me to get through everything. So I sort of organized the games here by what's not currently working on the left and what's working on the right. So I've reached out to a local electrician, and I'm going to try to get some new 20 amp circuits run. The panel for the house is actually behind the Sky Kid here. So run some lines down. All the games on the right work, so I'll be able to play them as we're kind of going through and getting ready to restore each one. I can pull it out and slide something new in. But anyway, I just feel like it's a more workable space. So I thought I'd take a few minutes to sort of go through everything that we've got and talk about what we've got upcoming for the channel. So first one here is the elevator action. Actually, this is the one I'm currently working on. So I've already shot a fair amount of video on it. This was an elevator action before, but it was in the green Taito cab, and I kind of wanted to have something that looked a little more like the tan and brown that comes off of the marquee and the bezel. So totally restoring this one ground up. The panel, I've already done the restore on it, sitting up on top. It just got a little cold, and I wasn't able to paint, so I had to sort of abandon that project a little bit. But now that I got the insulation up on the walls for the garage and resealed the bottom, I've got a little space heater I can bring out here, and that should allow me to sort of paint through the winter. So hopefully I won't have to slow down on any of these projects, and this is the first one that I'll be finishing. So anyway, it's going to be nice. I mean, I'm keeping a lot of it original, but since it was a conversion kit into the green Taito cab, I don't really feel bad about changing the color. The cabinet was also a disaster, as you'll see in that video once it gets started. So the bottom essentially was falling out, so I had to rebuild a lot of things. Anyway, that's the first one on the list. This 20-year reunion here, class of 81, Miss Pat Galaga cocktail. Tough to see it, but it's in fantastic condition. It was actually in a break room of apparently an airport somewhere, like a little small airfield. I got on Craigslist, $125. It was actually at a thrift store, so the airfield apparently donated it, and they said it wasn't working. So plug it in, you could hear the fan spin, but that was it. Got home, checked a couple loose wires, found that it was just playing blind, so there's some monitor work to do. I've got the chassis pulled off of it, and I'll get that one up and running. I don't really have room for a cocktail in my home arcade of the games inside, so this one will probably be something I sell. But just need to do the monitor kit, and then hopefully that one will be out into the world. Probably not a video for it since it's a relatively minor repair, but if you're in the market for a 20-year reunion and a really nice looking one at that, I will have this available hopefully in the next couple weeks. Next on the list is the Donkey Kong. I actually picked up this Donkey Kong and the Galaga behind me that we'll talk about in a second off of Craigslist as well. I was heading outside, heading out with my wife to go meet some friends, and somebody posted to Craigslist that they had a non-working Donkey Kong and a Galaga that worked, but there was no sound. And just taking offers, needed them gone. So I just shot over a really quick offer of $300 for both, which obviously is low, but I expected at least to start the dialogue, and I really wasn't in a position to go pick them up immediately like you kind of need to do on Craigslist. But shockingly, the guy responded and said, come pick them up, and he was only about 5 miles down the road. So next morning I went over, picked everything up first thing. The Donkey Kong is in fantastic condition for the most part. I've really honestly never seen a nicer cabinet. Less than 8,000 plays on the counter inside. The guy said that he picked the Donkey Kong up from his buddy who had an arcade in the early 80s. And so when the arcade closed in, I guess, 82, according to the sticker, he picked it up and he gave them to his friends. So they sat in that guy's garage forever, and slowly over time something would stop working. But the edges are all really clean. The side art is missing. I've already purchased new side art, but I mean, you can kind of tell it's like a more home use. I mean, there's no cigarette burns in anything. Everything is in fantastic condition. The only exception being this repair right here we're going to have to make. Apparently, when he was moving them, he strapped it down a little too hard, and it crumbled the side, which is unfortunate because, the lines on the other side are so sharp that, this really would have been an amazing original Donkey Kong, probably one of the nicest I've ever seen. So anyway, we'll make the repair, hopefully just feather in some touch-up paint, put the new side art on. And we do have to get this one running. The power supply is dead, so I'm going to have to cap that to start. And so that'll be a video, I'm sure. A quick one, hopefully. Mario Bros. Picked this one up on Clav. I actually bought 4 games from the same Claver. Mario Brothers, Q*bert, Punch-Out, and Gyrus. And this one was listed as non-working. It had been converted to a switching power supply, but it was complete. And the cabinet is in fairly decent condition, so we're going to do a little bit of body work on it just to sort of patch some areas where the sort of plywood is splintered. Obviously, it needs a couple new buttons, and the joysticks that are in it are a little rough, but I've got spare Nintendo joysticks and buttons from some Donkey Kong and Junior restores I did for the ones in the house. So we're going to get it back to original. I've got a new control panel overlay, some new side art, so we'll definitely redo that one. Probably be on the sooner rather than later list. Hoping to have room for this game. When I bought it, I had room, but I've picked up a couple titles since then, so I'm not sure I still do. So it's quite possible that this Mario Brothers will actually be coming out for sale once I get the restore done. And the same thing goes for this Donkey Kong. I've already restored a Donkey Kong, and it's in my house, so no need to have 2. So I would assume that those 2 games will definitely go out for sale at some point. This Berzerk, I bought it empty on eBay. I think I paid got $75 for it. The guy that sold it to me, actually sold a couple games to a friend of mine as well, so we were able to get sort of a bulk rate shipping deal. He had his own shipping company that he used locally, and so I think I'm in it for about $200. And I have the harness and the J-Rock Berzerk Frenzy board, so this was converted to some other game. I already had the bezel from the warehouse raid, and I bought the panel from somebody on Clav, so for the control panel and the original stick. So I'm not sure how much I'm going to be into it at the end of the day. And the board was part of, I guess part of the warehouse lot, the raid that we were in. We got a board in there and the harness and a bunch of other stuff that was in there. So I'll obviously get through the restore here at some point, but it's got some cabinet work that needs to be done. It was cheap, but I'll redo this, and that'll definitely be a video series of its own. Street Fighter 2, this is actually just picked up, I think a week or 2 ago. I just saw an ad for a cheap Street Fighter 2. They weren't too far away, and so there were no photos, anything. They just said, hey, it works, so come get it. And so I went over, grabbed it, and lo and behold, it was actually in a Williams cabinet, which I have been hunting for about a year. In the raid, the prior owner of all those games had, I guess, intentions of making a multi-Williams. So there was the J-Rock board, the harness, all of the artwork, the marquee, the bezel you can't find anymore. I guess they're not making them. So the control panel he bought from Arcade Shop was in there. So, I mean, literally everything I need to make a multi-Williams I have. And so now I finally have the cabinet. So I sold the Street Fighter 2 package. I think that person hopefully is going to come pick these up today. He was out of town. And so I'll go ahead and get started in making that a multi-Williams. So that'll definitely be a restore series as well, since I've got all brand new everything for it. A little bit of cabinet work, but nothing dramatic. You just need to get some new feet on it and touch up the bottom, etc. So we'll go through all of that. It was painted black by the prior person, so I'm not 100% sure what the cabinet was. My guess is it's wider, so probably a Joust. That's my guess. Maybe a Robotron, I don't know. Anyway, so next one is Q*bert here. This game is fully functional. It just is, the cabinet was a little rough, and so I've got some body work to do on it. I also purchased new artwork for some of the areas, like the control panel overlay, which was a little rough, and the bezel, which had some flaking paint, so I bought new ones of each of those. So we'll definitely be doing a video on that one, but the game plays, so for the time being, I'm just going to sort of enjoy it, and when I get to the restore, then I have everything I need already for it. Same thing on the Robotron. Game works great. This was one of the ones I picked up in the raid, so as we got the 110 games, we sold everything off, made some money there, which was nice, and then ended up having a couple games that I was able to take home, which essentially ended up being free if you kind of want to look at it that way. The 4-inch original Wiccos are inside the game, so I was pretty fortunate I don't have to chase those down. And then I guess Phoenix Arcade is reproing a control panel overlay, and that's been in the works for months, maybe even longer. Which I understand now that it might be done or close to it. So hopefully I'll get that overlay in, because I did buy a repro one, but it's pretty much junk. So no sense going through the install with that. Bottom of the cabinet is pretty rough, so I'm going to have to cut off probably 6-8 inches out of that. And I bought new stencils for it. So we'll do the paint, bodywork, stencils, etc. So definitely a video on that one. Next one is Centipede. When I kind of got started in the arcade video game collecting is I wanted to open up a game, or I'm sorry, an arcade in my house. Centipede was the one on my wife's list that she loved, and so I've had my eye out, hadn't been able to find one reasonably priced. This one came up on Craigslist. I think the guy originally wanted $500 for it. I ended up picking up for $400, which it's about average for Centipede pricing. But when I got over there, this game is in fantastic condition. I mean, it is, as these Atari cabinets, as many people know, ended up taking on water periods of storage for 30 years. And so this one is, looks like it was stored in the desert in Arizona. I mean, it is just straight all the way up and down. Great artwork on the side. There's a few little minor touch-ups that we're going to do on some of the edges. But other than that, I mean, it needs a new ball. This one's yellowed out, so I bought a new one of those. That's here, and a new overlay where some of it is peeled back. So we'll clean up the bolts, clean up everything here, and then that one's good to go. Game works great. Track and field. Picked this one up on Clav. Paid $500 for it, but that ended up being $500 delivered to my house, which was, I think, a pretty good deal. The cab is rough. It's got some, particularly on the top, where it's got a bunch of sort of what looked to be like it was taking on water at some point, so all of that sort of particle board crumbled. So there's a lot of work to be done here. I went ahead and already bought all new side art for it, and I bought a marquee from Phoenix Arcade and a new CPO, so the overlay will go in. It's got the raised letter Century door, so I've got some body work to do. But the game works and plays as it is, so I'll kind of enjoy it until I get to it, but I've got everything I need to restore that one from ground up, and I think I just need the blue paint at this point. Tron, this is one of the ones I've been looking forward to for a while. The game works. This was another one I picked up in the raid, so essentially ended up being free. I have a box load of parts for it as well that we got as part of the raid, so I've got the proper handle that we'll be installing. Right now, when you turn the game on, it plays, but the guy only goes left, so I've got some work to do there to be able to get that functioning. I'm not sure if it's a joystick issue or something else, but I'll have to work on that. Other than that, I've got the full $600 Phoenix Arcade art package. I've got some new parts, miscellaneous things like coin door chutes and whatnot, so I'll be restoring the coin door. But this one will get a full body work, full paint, and all new art, so that's definitely going to be a keeper for me. That one is going in the house as soon as I finish it. But in the meantime, as soon as I get the joystick fixed, which I'll probably do sooner rather than later, it'll at least work, so I can play it. Tron, same thing here with the raid, so there's kind of a Tron theme. Robotron, Tron, and Tron were the three games I ended up taking home from the raid. After we sold everything we wanted to sell, we split up the remaining games, and these are the three I ended up with. So great games, obviously. But I've kind of been delaying this restore because there's two things that it really needs. Is that this piece of glass here, you can see there's very little artwork actually left. It's totally gone on the right side. This old game does repro those. As well as this piece up here, which is just the frame for the lenticular marquee. So all the paint, as you can see, is coming off there. So the second I take that off, that's going to flake away. So those two pieces were made years ago at this old game, and he just hasn't restocked them in forever. And finally, just last week or week before, he started stocking them again at the first of the year. So pretty excited to place my order for those two things. Once they come in, we're going to do a full restore on this. There's actually a hole on the left side about 3 inches in diameter. I don't know if it was from an old like Dave & Buster's cocktail sign or if it was from a rodent that just needed to get inside. But either way, we're going to patch up the hole. I got all new side art for it, the good stuff from Rich at this old game, not the sort of junk that you see on eBay for $100. So we'll be redoing that. I've got a new control panel overlay for it, and then the two pieces of glass that I mentioned. So we'll get in, clean it up, get the black lights replaced because a bunch of them weren't working. And then obviously do a little bit of work on the coin door. It's actually in pretty good condition overall. It just really needs a couple new chutes. You can see this one was covered up and this one is not original to the game. So be working on that. That'll definitely be a video or two all on its own. Next is this Versus Sky Kid, which was a pretty cool story actually. I picked it up on Craigslist. A woman and husband and wife were just listed it for $150. They just kind of wanted it out of their garage. Apparently they were moving. And so there was a photo, but it wasn't a good one. So I got over there and looked at it. And this thing is in fantastic condition. Apparently they've had it for about 15, 20 years or so. Unfortunately, it's been sitting in the garage. And as she was pulling in, she would accidentally bump the game with her car from time to time. So you can see these crunches on the lower section, which is unfortunate because the rest of this is so sharp. I mean, these edges, other than the T-molding needs to be replaced, it was in fantastic condition, but you can see she's hit the coin door a couple times. So kind of funny, but it is what it is. So I bought a new Repro coin door. Obviously, the T molding will have a couple little minor repairs to the wood in the front, but the rest of it is amazing. The game is a former Donkey Kong, obviously, but was converted to Sky Kid originally because the kit for Donkey Kong to Sky Kid is actually inside. So I've got a new old stock topper, the manual, the sort of red tent card is in there, the instructions, everything. So that's pretty cool. Just going to clean it up a little bit, but I mean, these buttons are fantastic. Everything is nice and sharp, and you can definitely tell this was in somebody's house. The game works great. So I bought a couple other kits since then. I bought Super Mario Brothers. I picked up a Versus Excite Bike and another game that I had bought and have since sold that cabinet. So I've got those and some Hogan's Alley, and I've got a gun, and so I'm not really 100% sure what I'm going to do with it. I might buy another panel and just have a gun, one that I can swap in and out. And I know they're making a multiverses as well, one of the Clovers is, so maybe I'll just put that in there once it's time, or maybe I'll just swap boards as needed. But Sky Kid's probably a fun game, but I'd much rather have like a Versus Super Mario marquee and look, so that's probably what I'll convert it to. And finally is this Galaga. This is the one with the Donkey Kong I picked up. Less than 8,000 plays, like 7,700 or so it hardly even paid for itself back in the day. This thing is in fantastic original condition. I mean, I know it's tough to tell because I kind of have it jammed in here, but side art's great. I mean, look at the overlay. It's hardly a mark on it. The glass is perfect, no flaking. The marquee, same thing. Coin door, I mean, everything along the front is just sharp. I touched up a couple little black spots from hand marks on the left and right, and other than that, I didn't do anything to it. Works great. The sound apparently was not working. And when I got it, it did not work, but it ended up being just a little piece that I had off of another board that I swapped in. So in a 10-minute repair, and I have a fully functional Galaga and a Donkey Kong I have to work on for $300 total. So that was a great deal. I actually have a Galaga Cabaret in my house, and I've always been looking for the upright to replace it. So this one will go in the house once I make a little more room in there. So anyway, these are really the projects. So I don't know, we got a lot. We've got 8, 12, 13, 14 games out here total. So I think it's a nice little garage-cade. I know it's obviously not designed and set up to be, like a real arcade, and I haven't painted the walls or hung any decoration, but for the fact that I can work on the games and then also play them while I'm working on them until they move into the house, it's a nice little space. And getting everything all organized, I know this probably looks awful compared to how some people are, but I got all the boxes organized. All of my artwork and everything that I need, all the stuff I purchased to restore the games, all of the tubes you can see in there piled in are all of artwork that'll go on the games. Everything is labeled. It was amazing how much stuff I had that I completely forgotten about, and so I labeled all the boxes so I know what I'll have moving forward. So anyway, that's the plan. So my goal for this year is to not buy any more games. Number one, because I just don't have the space for them. I'll have some of these that I'll be working on and selling. The Cocktail, the Reunion Cab, the Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers for sure are going to be sold. I don't think I have anything. Oh, and the discs of Tron. Those are the ones for sure that I will be selling at some point. But other than that, I'll just be working through these restores. So anyway, if you're interested in any of these games, subscribe to the channel. I try to make it not as boring as possible, and I'm not going to do sort of 10-part series on each of these games. I'm hoping it's just going to be a video or two, so lots of just before and after and kind of walking through the things that I did versus, doing them on camera where you've got to sort of fast forward through things. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks.